Think about this for a second with me. There are almost 7.8 billion people in the world right now. And no two are the same. No two are the same, even if they're identical twins, right? They have different hopes, different dreams, different desires. No two are the same. And nobody has ever existed before, billions and billions of people, or will ever exist again, that looks exactly like you do. That has those quirks, that has those dreams, that has those desires. And we've heard, right? We've heard that we're made in the image and likeness of God. Y'all have heard that, right? So follow me here for a second. If you are made in the image and likeness of God, and you are completely and utterly unique, then that means that you, in who you are, in how you look, reveal something about God that nobody else has, does, or ever will again. The artist, his heart is revealed through his creation. And we are God's masterpiece. We are God's masterpiece. So what I'd like to do for you in this time, in this talk, is talk about that. Talk about the amazing design for our bodies and really lay out what I'd like to call an adequate anthropology. In the midst of the confusion of the world, what do we, as Catholics, based on natural law, what do we actually believe about the human person and the creation of the human person? So Mary did a wonderful job of this, but she kind of laid out these two worldviews that we have. Okay, so the first is that secular worldview. It's the belief that you are random, that your worth is based off of what you do, it's based off of what you look like, it's based off of others' opinions of you. You're expendable. The whole world is random. It's just the result of some evolutionary process, right? Interestingly, there's this famous, he's a physicist, a mathematician, and a philosopher. Pretty smart guy. So he actually tried to calculate that probability of creation just being random. These are the odds of creation just being random. If we have any math people in the room, help me out here. But he says it's 1 part in 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. That is 1 followed by 10 to the 123rd power zeros. To give it some context, he says, this number is so large, it would be impossible to write out in the usual decimal way, because even if you were able to put a 0 on every particle in the universe, there would not be enough particles to do the job. That is how small the odds are of everything just being by chance. Now, the other worldview that I would really love to unpack for you is the Catholic Christian worldview. It's the view that the world was designed, that you were designed, that you were thought of before heaven, before earth, before anything existed. You were thought of. You were chosen. And God breathed life into you. At the moment of your conception, I don't know if you know this, but at the moment of conception, they've been able to capture the moment of conception. There's actually a flash of light. There's a flash of light. It's God breathing life into your soul. And beyond that odds, if you think about the odds of the world existing, have you ever thought about the chances of you actually existing? You ever thought about the chances of you actually existing? I mean, think about all of the generations going back and going back. What if your great, 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 great ancestors were, I don't know, killed by a bear in the wild. They wouldn't have had your great, 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 great grandfather. What if your grandfather died in war? They wouldn't have had your father. It's weird to think about, but what if your parents decided not to have sex on the night they had sex where you were conceived? You wouldn't be here. And beyond that, the one of 200 million sperm uniting with the one of, when you were at least conceived, 800,000 eggs, those specific sperm and egg uniting, if a different sperm or a different egg united, you wouldn't be here. The odds of you personally being here in your you-ness was designed, was intentional. As I like to tell people, you're already a champion. You made it. You are. Those are the odds of you existing. It gives us this sense of like awe and wow and purpose that I was chosen. I am here for a reason. Now, when we look at the creation of the human body, what does it mean to be a human being? What it means is that we're a body-soul union. And you can't separate them. The culture thinks that you can. But that separation, what is that called? Death. And that was not in God's original plan. So we are a body-soul union. Everybody point to your soul for a second for me. Yeah, somebody in the back is doing this. I love it. Right? The body is the form of the soul, and the soul is the form of the body. St. Thomas Aquinas actually says that the soul contains the body, and that it animates the body as male or as female. Now, the late St. John Paul II dedicated a lot of his pontificate to developing a teaching called the Theology of the Body. What do our bodies reveal about God? And the theology of the body, which he spent 4 years writing, 5 years delivering, and the rest of his pontificate unpacking, can be kind of simplified down in what I'd say to this kind of thesis statement. And what he says is, he says that the body, and in fact only the body, is capable of making visible the invisible, the spiritual and the divine. So what I would liken it to is, if you are sad, what do? You cry, right? Your body expresses that. If you're happy, you smile. Now, we are a master at shielding our emotions, but unless you're some CIA operative, right, it's really hard to pass a polygraph test. Because your body actually reacts physiologically when you're lying. Okay? Well, in a kind of similar, except a lot deeper and more complex way, our bodies, and we're going to talk about this, our bodies actually reveal our purpose as human persons, but also our destiny, what God has designed for all of us. So when we look at the human body, let's look initially at its creation. Okay? It's created, and we see at least its creation described in the book of Genesis. So God spends 7 days creating the world. Okay, well 6, and then he rests on the 7th. So over the first 6 days, right, God is creating the sun and the moon, the stars, the land, the flowers, the trees, the animals. And after every day, do you remember what he says? He says, "Behold, it is good." Then on kind of like this, we'll call it the second half of the 6th day, God creates the human person. He creates man and woman, the human body. And what does he say? Behold, it is very good. Very good. That difference is seemingly small, but it has the greatest of implications. That means that your body and my body is more holy and more beautiful and more important than the rest of creation combined. Right? We all have in our minds something that we would acknowledge as like beautiful in creation, like a beautiful sunset, or the beach, or the mountains, or the foliage that's starting to come out, right? The human body is more sacred and more beautiful and more holy than all of those things, because as God reveals to us, it is very good. Now, is this how we view the body? For a lot of us, no. There's a lot of false views of the human body, and I'd like to go through a few of them, because I think they are part of the conditions or the mindsets that is leading to a lot of the gender and body dysphoria issues that we have in our day. The first is that the body is bad. A lot of us have heard this actually in our Catholic upbringings. The body is just a shell. It's just something that contains the soul. The spirit is good. Body bad, spirit good. And when I die, I'm finally liberated from my body. This is actually a heresy called Manichaeism. It's a heresy in the church. My best friend is an ER nurse. And she shared this story with me, and it struck me. So she had a patient one day that identified as a transgender male, and was, giving forth her new name. And my friend had to ask for her biological name, the name given to her, because she had to look up this person's medical records. Makes sense, right? Because in medicine, actually there's a difference between how you treat biological men and how you treat biological women. So she had to pull up this woman's chart. And the woman gave the name, quickly followed by the line, "But she is dead." But she is dead. Something in her, in order to live out this new identity, had to literally kill her old self. Had to literally kill her old self. That breaks my heart. She had a belief that her body was bad. Now, a lot of us, additionally, we've grown up with very puritanical upbringings. Body bad, sex bad. It's just used for procreation. There's a lot of shame that has come into the view of our bodies. And lastly, I think there's this false belief, and I spend a lot of my time working with college and high school and middle-aged women, middle-aged girls. And something that breaks my heart, and I've been known to throw things across the room when I talk about this, is the idea, and I think sometimes we preach it in Catholic circles, that you are a cause for sin. Dress modestly because you are a cause for sin. You're going to cause your brothers to sin. Now, there is some truth to respecting, right? Dressing modestly to respect those who are looking at us. But no human being in their identity is ever a cause for sin, nor is the body a cause for sin. And that just creates this sense that the body is bad. So we have to be careful with our language there. The second false view we have of the human body is that it's something to fear. A lot of women today have a fear of being a woman. Why? Because they've been abused and they've been objectified. And the reality is that there is a pandemic right now of viewing of violent pornography, both by men and by women. And so when women see this, or they see the results of this, they say, if that's how I'm going to be treated as a woman, then maybe it's bad to be a woman. And what John Paul II says about pornography is he says, it doesn't reveal too much, it actually reveals too little. It reveals too little of the dignity of the human person. And so there's this fear of, at least with the women I work with sometimes, of being a woman because of the fear of objectification. The third false view is that, well, the body's bad because the body suffers. I get it. I'm a diabetic. My pancreas doesn't work right. I've had 7 surgeries. as an athlete, 7 orthopedic surgeries. But just because the body is fallen doesn't mean it's bad. And we know in the beauty of our faith as Catholics, we have this opportunity to actually offer up our suffering, to unite it with the Lord's passion, and to turn it into a very powerful prayer of intercession for others. Next is that the body is something to flaunt. We'll talk later. The body is one of actually the greatest icons that points to the Lord. And so therefore, it becomes one of the greatest idols. It becomes attacked. We see this all over social media, right? Women dressing, posing in a certain way, flaunting their bodies for attention because they believe that that's the only way they can get attention. You know, I recently, I guess in the last year, led a Theology of the Body retreat for middle school girls. And I never thought I would say this, but I looked them in the eye and I said to them, your body is not wrong. God did not make a mistake. He created you as a woman for a reason. Your body is not wrong. And I don't know that anybody, all of them, maybe some of them, but I'd say a lot of them had never had anybody tell them that before. Because you could, in their faces and in their bodies, I could see them receive that and almost exhale and relax. Because in the culture, right, they're being told that their body could be wrong. The body is not wrong, and God did not make a mistake when he created you male or he created you female. And the final one is that the body is ugly. Dove Soap did a survey a number of years ago, and they found that 96% of women do not believe they're beautiful. 96% of women. And men, I know you have your own kind of body dysphoria issues as well. Do you see yourself the way others see you? Or more importantly, the way God sees you? And I want to call out the moms in the room. Your children are observing how you see yourself. Because if they see you critiquing how you look, what are they going to learn to do? Or teachers, or grandparents, anybody that's looking up to you, they're observing how you view your body. Now, I can stand up here and tell you you're beautiful, but ultimately it's the one who created you who's going to heal your heart and heal your self-image. So something I would suggest you do, we don't have time to do it together, it's called the body scan. So go into prayer, go into a silent place, and I want you to kind of do a self-inventory. So start at the top of your head and go body part by body part down your whole body. Hair, forehead, eyebrows. And I want you to ask yourself, do I like this part of my body? And be honest. I mean, the first time I did it, I probably critiqued about 80% of my body. But I don't want you to stop there. Then I want you to go before the Lord in prayer. Go to a chapel, go to adoration, sit in quiet, picture the Lord. And I want you to ask him the same question. Lord, do you love my hair? Do you love my forehead? Do you love my eyebrows, my eyes? And listen to what he has to say. Because his answer will be, of course. I gave you that frizzy hair. I gave you those blue eyes. I gave you that little pig nose. He delights in us. And we need to allow him to be the one to heal our hearts. Now, God actually views you as so good, as so holy, that he actually comes to dwell in you. We see this in 1 Corinthians, that we are temples of the Holy Spirit. By our baptism, God, literally the Trinity, comes to dwell within us. And so when we look at our bodies, when we look at taking care of our bodies, this is what I want your mantra to be. I am not something to fix. I am someone to honor. Thank you. I am not something to fix. I don't need to lose 10 pounds because I need to fix something about myself. Okay, maybe if I'm realizing my body's a temple, I need to be healthier, I'm honoring myself. Because the result of I am something to fix is fear, it's anxiety, and it's shame. And it's giving up on your diet. But if you view yourself as someone to honor, the result of that is peace, self-love, commitment to your goals. And I think we see with individuals who are struggling with that body or gender dysphoria, this belief that they have to fix something about themselves, rather than that they are someone to honor. Now let's talk about the creation, our creation as male and female. We fit the nature of things. We fit the cosmological nature of things as masculine and feminine. And the two coming together. Where is the most expensive property in the world? Let me know. It's waterfront property. It's oceanfront property. It's at the shore, right? It's waterfront property. Now, I don't think you would argue with me that land or rock, in its essence, is masculine. And water is feminine. Now, the most expensive property in the world isn't in the middle of the desert, nor is it in the middle of the ocean. It's where the two come together. Something in us. I could sit on a beach all day and do nothing. And that's really hard for me, because I'm very active, right? But something in me just is right and is at peace when I watch the waves crashing onto the beach. There's something that fits. So when we look at the creation of man and woman, right, like God created Adam first. And he's looking around and he sees this. He sees this nature of things, this masculine and this feminine. And he realizes there's not another like him. And so God puts him to sleep, a deep, deep, intimate ecstasy sleep, and makes Eve to show equality out of his rib. Now, Eve wakes up. Adam's been living, right? He kind of knows what's up. He knows what's going on. He has dominion over the animals. Eve wakes up and she knows none of that. What is Eve's first human experience? It's being looked at. It's being gazed at. It's being seen. They say that every woman wants to be beautiful and be seen as beautiful, and every man wants to behold beauty. It's in our nature. It's in how we were created. Adam looks at Eve with awe and fascination, and he sees that she's different than him, but similar. In his first interaction, JP2 says, he seems to say, look at the body that expresses the person. And what he recognizes is what John Paul II calls the spousal meaning of the body. And what this means is that when Adam looked at Eve, he saw her as pure gift. And when Eve looked at Adam, she saw him as pure gift. That they were meant to unite in love, physically, to be a gift to one another. Now, with the fall, we lost that. Because the opposite of love that exists in our culture today is use. The opposite of love is use. Now, what's really cool is, again, our bodies reveal something about us. And the male body is different from the female body. Now, in the sexual act, how would I define masculinity? Well, the body reveals it. In the sexual act, the male is external. He's giving himself to his bride. Therefore, the height of masculinity is sacrifice. Is sacrifice. Right? William Wallace. Come on, guys. Right? You love him. Now, who lived out his masculinity perfectly? This is your model. This is why Christ had to be a man, because he offered himself body and soul. He sacrificed himself on the cross. But this is also extremely masculine. A man getting up every day and going to work to provide for his family. There's an element of sacrifice there. Now, Bishop Burbidge says, and Mary pointed this out, right? A person may have atypical interests, but this does not change the person's sexual identity. So growing up, I always believed the lie, because I'm 6 feet tall and I love sports and I was a tomboy, that I wasn't feminine. That is a lie. The fact that I was created, we have to be so careful with our language, the fact that I was created a woman makes me feminine in all aspects of my human person. I can deny that, but just in being created as a woman, I am feminine. Now, when we look at the height of femininity, in the sexual act, the woman receives the man and then has this amazing ability to harbor and bear forth life. The height of femininity is receptivity and the ability to bear forth life. So that's why women love princess movies growing up. But I also think that Wonder Woman is extremely feminine. She's receptive to the pain of those around her. If you've seen this movie, it's amazing. I have a whole talk on it. But she receives the pain of others and bears forth life in their lives. There's many ways to do this, and our perfect model is Mary. Mary at the Annunciation saying yes, receiving the Lord's call, but Mary at the foot of the cross, standing and receiving her son and being willing to become our mother. Because I run an organization for female athletes, I did want to take a moment to just comment on what I'm seeing and how this transgender issue is impacting the women that I work with. So we just had the 50th anniversary of Title IX back in June. And Title IX historically was developed to prevent sex discrimination in public educational institutions. Now, the Biden administration is seeking to change that sex to gender identity. I'll sum up athletes' reaction, because this is one of the most common things we talk about, in this one story. I was sitting this summer with a 15-year-old basketball player. Phenomenal, probably get recruited D1. And she brought this issue up. And she said, "It makes me feel like I don't matter. It makes me feel like I don't matter." And while there's a lot of great things happening, international sports federations making rulings to prevent Aaliyah Thomas from competing again, we still have a long, long way to go. I probably to a sinful level was quite enraged by what was happening. The Lord has changed my heart. I am praying that I get to meet Leah and just, talk to him. So let's continue to pray for him. I'll end with this. Our bodies reveal God. So we are not so much made in God's image and likeness in our singularity, but in our moment of communion. I'll show you this analogy for a second. So we know that we have a God who is one God in three persons. So the Father loves the Son. The Son receives the love of the Father and gives it back. And they say that love is so palpable, is so real, is so creative, that it results in a third, the Holy Spirit. Okay? Similarly, man has the capacity to love a woman. The woman receives the love of the man and gives it back. And that love is so palpable, is so real, God respects our freedom, that 9 months later, it can result in a third. The gender difference, marriage, is an icon for the Trinity. God created two genders to reflect himself and to reflect what we're all called to in heaven. The gender difference reveals that we are called to communion in this life, but we are called to communion in heaven. Heaven is a wedding banquet. In heaven, we all, in a certain sense, marry God. We enter into a deep union with God. And so our bodies were designed, the gender difference was designed to reflect this. Our bodies speak this truth. Marriage speaks this truth. Again, our bodies are significant and they have purpose. I'll end with this. Trust your instincts. You know deep in your heart the nature of things. You know that you, or the person that you know is struggling, was created by a God that loves them. A God that designed them. A God that has a plan for their life. Gender is not fluid. Instead, we have infinite instances of unique men and unique women that reflect the infinite nature of our God. Thank you.